Well, hello again. I just thought I'd do a very quick video before I do the steaming pile that is the, or isn't, the Penturch UFO incident part 3. I will get around to that. I've done some of the clips, but you know, I put a line through that a long time ago. It's not an interesting case. So watching the Kaz Clark and Gary Jones presentation, it's a bit of a chore, to be honest, to find the clips to put the comments in. So because it's not interesting. But yes, I will do it. I said I'd do it, and I will do it because there are just a few loose ends that need tying up with that particular steaming pile. Just needs another poke with a stick. Anyway, I just thought I'd do a very quick video because I thought this was quite funny. I tend to listen to a lot of Ben's videos while I'm painting or doing other stuff, and if there's anything interesting, I quickly sort of run over and jot down a timestamp. And I thought this was quite interesting. Now, Ben read out a letter that I posted, which was from James Van Allen about his radiation belts. Now, bear in mind, he's a PhD astrophysicist, he's Professor of Astrophysics, James Van Allen. And Ben, who is, I think, a gardener, or handyman, feels obliged to question what Van Allen had to say about his belts. Now, what Ben doesn't seem to consider here is that the letter he is reading was written after the Apollo missions. And the radiation levels that Van Allen is talking about were measurements taken from the Apollo spacecraft. And as Van Allen points out, the risks associated with that level of radiation exposure were extremely low compared with the other risks undertaken on such a mission. Anyway, I just thought this might be a bit of fun.
I'm not gonna answer this now. Let me just check it. I'll check there's nothing. Oh, BZ Garson says.
Oh, hang on.
So to follow your logic, why isn't there norm for the?
Oh, hang on. Let's get it in the right place. Let's try there.
Flights, these estimates are still reliable. The recent Fox TV show, which I saw, is an
Now this is Ben is reading out the letter from James Van Allen to someone that sent him an email asking him about his radiation belts.
Ingenious and entertaining assemblage of nonsense. They claim that radiation exposure during Apollo missions would have been fatal to the astronauts. It's only one example of such nonsense. James A. Van Allen, the man for whom the Van Allen belts are named after. You should take him seriously, shouldn't you?
Well, you should certainly take him a lot more seriously than a handyman. I think that's fairly obvious.
Well, it is. He says here quite clearly that he was an advisor to the Apollo missions in the early 1960s because he discovered the belts as a result of research done with the help of NASA in 1959, the Explorer missions, for example. But you see, the thing about it is, in the early 1960s, there was the solar minimum. This was just the beginning of the research into the belt. The faster the belts, the two Van Allen belts. There was also Operation Starfish Prime, which did...
Ben seems to be forgetting about all the precursor Apollo missions, you know, the orbital missions, and the missions that Apollo 8 went round the moon, of course. all these other missions would have been looking at the Van Allen radiation belts, measuring the levels in the Van Allen radiation belts. He really is clueless, this guy. You really should not be taking anything Ben Emlyn-Jones says seriously. He's got absolutely no idea.
It was a nuclear weapon detonated in the high up in the atmosphere, close to orbit, I believe, which created another greater radiation belt, which is still there today, I think. This means that they were still very much... There is some truth to this. There was actually some atmospheric nuclear detonations in the early 60s. I don't know if the Russians did them as well, but certainly the Americans did a few, I think. Quite high yield, megaton plus type warhead detonations.
But what you've got to bear in mind, of course, is that the Russian spacecraft were going up around that time. With astronauts in, the American spacecraft were going up around that time. Actually, I should have actually Googled the altitude that those detonations were carried out at, but they would have been in low Earth orbit, where the early manned missions were taking place, and where the ISS is now. I would think maybe a little bit lower than that. He's clutching at straws here. He's just looking for just something he can cling on to so that he can keep that little bit of doubt going. Quite nonsensical, of course. I don't know if it's worth continuing with this, but let's just move it on a bit.
These were still only estimates.
They were measurements.
When the actual rockets were being designed, they weren't sure exactly what they were going to face when they actually got up into space in the
Of course they were. Ben seems to think they went from the measurements taken on the Explorer to Apollo 11. There's nothing in between. Nothing. The Americans didn't do anything in between. Russians didn't do anything in between. He's got absolutely no idea.
Late 1960s. The first like this, for instance, Apollo 8, 1968.
Yeah.
Which is the first one. Now,
don't you think they might have measured the radiation, Ben, in Apollo 8?
I suppose the answer I'd have to ask, what I'd have to ask is, you might be right, Dr. Van Allen, but
yeah. Now let's have a look in the left corner. We have a professor of astrophysics who discovered the belt, who has the belts named after him, and in the right corner we have Ben, who is a ex-hospital porter and self-employed handyman. Self-employed handyman gardener. Now, let's just think about that for a second. Who should I... whose information should I consider more seriously?
If you're wrong, it's a pretty terrible situation, not least because once you get even beyond the Van Allen belt, then you have the risk of solar flares.
Of course, these people at NASA never think about this. They just sit around eating their chalky digestives, drinking coffee, and watching cartoons. This never would have occurred to them.
The question I've got to ask you is, everything went fine, but you could say you're saying that after it went.
Oh, so everything went fine, did it, Ben? So here we have another Freudian slip from Ben Emlyn-Jones. He's saying everything went fine. So he knows it all happened. It all went fine. There you go. Another Freudian slip. Another Freudian slip from Ben Emlyn-Jones. He knows it all happened. He knows it's all real. He's just clinging to this conspiracy codswallop. Because it gives him something to do, gives him a bit of a social life, probably. He knows there's nothing to this Apollo conspiracy nonsense.
And fine, after everything went well.
Everything went well, did it, Ben? Okay, well, good job. We've got you on record. Thank you, Mr. Freud. Oh, Dr. Freud.
But Dr. Van Allen, it's easy to say that afterwards. Not so easy to say beforehand. Especially when, as they used to say in the 60s, the whole world is watching. So, interesting. Thanks for sharing that with us, Steve Mumbling.
Well, don't mention it, Ben. They didn't keep the Challenger space shuttle disaster a secret, did they? Or the Columbia space shuttle disaster. That was there for everybody to see. The Apollo 1 disaster. Didn't hush that up, did they?
And there's my answer.
And as usual, it's ridiculous nonsense.
Right, Steve Mumbling says in Apollo 20.
Me again. Blimey, hang on. Let's see what else we got here.
1919. It looks like Jared.
I love the Steve Mumbling voice. Anybody out there ever heard me sound like that? Let me know in the comments below.
White is another Colin. All right, I think he means Colin Sugrin, the man who you said you wanted to feed into a wood chipper, feet first, so you could hear him scream before he died. Well,
actually, again, he's not paying attention. What I said was that I would like to lower him into a wood chipper feet first, so that the screaming wouldn't stop too soon.
That was when you said that, and I made the decision I wasn't going to make any more comments reply videos to you.
No, I think you decided that after a discussion with the rest of your conspiracy muppets, Ben. You know, Marcus Allen and the other guys said, "Do not engage mumbling. We're getting killed here. We're getting killed. Do not engage mumbling." That's the real story there, I think.
At 0:32, he said he just travelled to work on the train's luggage rack. Hands up, everyone here that believes that. Really? You're in the right place on this channel. I've got no idea what you're talking about, Steve. Let's have a look at Colin. What Colin says here. Colin couldn't make it for the unfortunately for the third video.
I can't imagine why. All right, well, I think I'll end that clip there. And I've never ever travelled on a luggage rack on a train or a bus. I've always either stood up or had a seat. Never ever travelled on a luggage rack. Yeah, Gerald White was his other crazy scientist. It seemed to come out of seemed to come off the same conveyor belt as Colin. You know, fast talking, rapid eye movements. Sounds as though he knows what he's talking about. You know, sounds like a mad scientist. And you think, oh, this guy is switched on. But until you listen to what they're saying, and then you find out that what they're actually saying is absolute rubbish. Of course, absolute nonsense. All right, well, I think I'll end that clip here and see what else we can find. Well, although Ben won't respond to my videos, I thought this was because he knows he's going to get ripped to shreds. So Marcus Allen, he seems to have aged about 20 years in the last 18 months. Marcus Allen, if you've noticed that. But he's developed this nervous twitch in his left eye as well, a lot like Inspector Dreyfus from the Pink Panther movies. Anyway, I digress. I thought this was quite interesting.
Artography. Steve, this is artography on the Apollo Detectives 2019. I'm waiting for Steve Mumbling's version of this video. And Steve posts underneath, "Have fun." Here is a link to Steve Mumbling's video on the subject. Let's have a look. I think I've looked at this one. Yeah. I've watched it. I think I've commented on it. I think I did. I bit the bullet and I commented on Steve's videos. I just can't resist it sometimes. I did it the other night as well when I was drunk. Yeah, I just can't resist it, you know. It draws me in. Apollo Detectives 2019.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Ben, and glad to have you aboard, mate. Glad to have you aboard. He can't resist it. He's drawn in to the Steve Mumbling videos. Okay, well, actually, I'll watch most of yours, Ben, or at least listen to them. So yes, it works the other way around as well, I think. Well, I can resist, actually. I can resist, depending on what it is, especially the free energy ones. I mean, give us a... Yeah. That's just really is offensive nonsense. The free energy, we can live in this utopian thing. Anyway, I'm going off at a tangent again, but it's all nonsense. Put a line through that. And put a line through John Hutchison. Oh, dear. Okay, so let's see what else we got. This is another clip. I'm getting quite a few mentions in this one. Let's see what this one's about.
The way he behaves.
Oh, he's talking about my bad. This is why someone said, "Why won't to Ben? Why won't he debate me?" And he said, "The way I behave, shocking."
To be quite frank, you've said much worse in some of your previous videos. Right, links upon request. Please provide them. I follow your channel because I like some of your walkabout videos. You have a good grasp of history, and I find them to be quite informative, minus the conspiracy theories. But this back-patting rubbish holds no credibility whatsoever. Do you actually debate with people who disagree with you? Well, do you think I haven't debated with Steve Mumbling? Have you seen the videos I've made?
Well, yeah, that's not really a debate, though, Ben. The videos you've made in response to my videos is not really a debate. I can't pick you up on points and mistakes that you make. And of course, again, the reverse is true. It's terribly likely that I'm going to make a mistake, of course. Being a narcissistic psychopath, I would say it would be impossible, in fact, for me to get something wrong. But you know, you're welcome to give it a go if you like. Now, an example of this is he did a response video to. I did something about he did an Apollo Detectives video. I did one called Apollo Defectives, pulling them up on all the points they made, which were all ridiculous, of course. And Ben, clutching at straws, claimed that I had said something about a build-up of dust on a front wheel on a lunar rover, and I never did. And had we been having a live debate, of course, I would have been able to say, "Whoa, wait a minute, Ben. Yeah, you better show me that one. I don't recall that one at all. That did not happen." You know. So he's not debated me as such. Making a response video is not a debate. You can't argue video to video like that. It just doesn't work. I mean, you can make a few points, but the opponent can't challenge. You've got to make another video to challenge it. You know, you get another video, challenge it back. And Ben, a lot of the time, Ben misses the point altogether. I've mentioned this previously quite a few times. He goes off at a tangent. I think an example of that was, I can't quite remember, but it was something to do with the pictures from the moon. We were talking about images, and Ben goes off at a tangent talking about video, the bandwidth of video and all this, you know. So he has not debated me at all.
In response to Steve mumbling, I've never talked about, I've never actually suggested I would like to see somebody dead. This is all completely unfair.
Actually, this is the excuse he's using, of course, that I said that I'd like to put Colin in a wood chipper. But I'm sure I've seen some clips of Ben saying similar things, you know, like brick on the head, this sort of thing. I should have made a note of where they were, so I could have included one. But next time I come across one of those, I will just do a quick video clip of it, so that if I make any more videos about this in future, I can include those clips.
Absolutely, completely, utterly unfair. All right, then, just a...
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think you're using the wood chipper comment as an excuse, Ben, because you know that your conspiracy theories and arguments have more holes in them than a colander. And I think your colleagues, the usual suspects, you know, Captain Souffle and Marcus Allen, yeah, and the usual gang are completely bloody clueless. All right, well, let's just move on. Okay, so yes, they behind the scenes, Captain Souffle and Marcus Allen have said to Ben, do not respond to mumbling, do not debate mumbling, because he's making us look like a bunch of muppets. And that's only partially true, I think. They do a pretty good job of that themselves, I think. But anyway, let's see what else we've got here.
On Pento 3 is on. Hi Ben, if a ET said to you, would you like to come aboard my ship? Would you do it or run away? Oh, I know the right answer is yes. Please, I'll come on board your ship. And I hope I'd have the guts to do that. But you know, it's until you're actually in that situation, I don't think you can really know what you would do. Okay, now, all right, now I don't actually have to reply to this particularly, because Steve Mumbling has been posting stuff about.
I'm getting quite a lot of I don't know what you'd call it, really. Film time, screen time, I suppose, on this particular Ben video.
Ball patch, and I have, I've actually made actual comments to him here, because I wanted to get this out of the way. I couldn't wait for the next comments reply video. But anyway, we're going on about the EMF reading. Steve says we shouldn't be talking about that. But I said in the garage specifically controlled for electromagnetic pollution. Steve reckons that's meaningless. And he says, do you have a link to what you're talking about? I've looked at the coordinates you gave me for the bald patch over time on Google Earth. All that has happened is more scrub has grown. This makes it look like there's less grass. No, there's a patch where there's no scrub.
No, there isn't. I'm beginning to sound a little bit like Charles, aren't I? All right, Ben? And there is no control for the test they did with their Toy Town EMF meter. No control is shown. If you can show me a control that they've done, yeah, leave a link below. I'll take a look at it. But what I could see, what they did was in fact meaningless.
There's no bald patch. I'll show this in a video I'm making about the...
Yes, that's gonna... yeah, I'll show that in part 3 of the steaming pile. The Pentouch steaming pile. So, yeah, that will be coming.
Case. I actually watched that video, and I haven't watched all of it. I was in a bit of a state. Kaz tells us the...
So he's watched my Pentouch video, and he was in a bit of a state. Poor Ben. And I think the reason he was in a bit of a state was that as soon as he saw the clip where I showed the military flares, the curve at the bottom, the triangular shape, he knew straight away that I'd hit the nail on the head, and there was nothing to it. What Kaz had seen was, without doubt, military flares. And I think Ben could see his world of conspiracy crumbling around him. This particular story, he seems to think there was something to it, or he tells us he thinks there was something to it, until he saw that video. And then I think it brought it home to him that there is, in fact, nothing whatsoever to the Pentarch incident, UFO incident, so-called. Otherwise, why would he be in a state? He realised that I've hit the nail firmly on the head with that one.
The strange snow was like marshmallow and never melted. So what happened to it? Did the Vodafone guys vacuum it up? This one's a turkey, Ben. Well, you know, maybe they did. Maybe the Vodafone guys, supposedly, did get rid of it. Or maybe it evaporates.
Now, we're talking about a field covered in this stuff, aren't we?
Some other way, I don't know. That's a good question, I must admit.
Oh, well, thank you for that, anyway.
You're completely wrong about the ball patch, and you're completely wrong about Gary's controlling for electromagnetic pollution.
No, definitely not. Absolutely no control whatsoever. He's using a Toy Town meter. EM fields are not residual. No control. He didn't wave it around in another field, and let us see that there was a different reading in another field. Absolute nonsense.
Right, and Kaz actually comments on there herself. Right, well, this is a thread here where Kaz is actually commenting herself. Oh my goodness, this is a long one. I'll actually respond here. So I'll respond myself to this. It seems I may not be able to answer every single.
Oh, and I'll show in the video, but if you look at those coordinates that Ben gave me for the ball patch over time, all that's happened is the scrub's grown. It looks a different colour. There's no ball patch.
Single question here. Kaz can hold herself hold her own very well to these people, and she wants to be able to engage them, and I'm quite happy for her to do that. I'll assist her in any way I can. Dave...
Not that he's biased, of course. There's no bias there at all, is there? He's a real investigator, is Ben. He's looking for the truth.
Big time warp, this is. Let's do the time warp again. I've spoken with Richard D. Hall over email with this incident last year. I can tell you he has a very good reason for not going any further into it. If he's correct, and I think he might be, this incident is not quite all it appears to be. Well, if you're talking about the good reasons Richard has...
Yeah, I think I'll end this clip here, but the bottom line is, it was a military exercise. There's going to be aircraft flying around. There's going to be aircraft flying around low. There's nothing to it. It's just It's just an absolute steaming pile, the Penturk UFO non-event. All right, well, let's have a look what else we can find. Okay, next timestamp, and another mention of yours truly.
Okay, the Apollo Detectors 2019. Now, this is Julian Carver again. What's this here? Right. Notice how Steve fucking mumbling only seems to jump over Ben's videos, or the odd video by Ike or Dolan. I want to see mumbling doing his best mad Professor Skeptic routine over some of Andrew Johnson's or Richard D. Hall's work. Are you sure that Mumbles is not part of Team Droik, or whoever that was? Or Jim?
Yeah, I've got no idea what Team Droik is or was. To be honest, I have looked at some of Richard D. Hall's stuff, and I've looked at some of Andrew Johnson's stuff. I think it's pretty easy to debunk. It's rubbish, absolute rubbish. If you have anything specific in mind from either of those two, leave a link below to the videos you'd like me to have a look at and have a crack at debunking, and I'll have a look at them. So yeah, I've looked at them and thought it was too ridiculous for words. That's why I've never bothered with them, to be honest. It's not that it can't be debunked, it's just bloody rubbish. Let's see if there's anything else here.
Julian, he has mentioned Richard D. Hall occasionally. He's not mentioned Andrew Johnson, but it would be
No, I didn't. I've never mentioned Andrew Johnson because it's whatever I've seen from him is nonsense. It's just, it's like I don't do much with Miles Johnson because it's just too ridiculous for words. It's just super soldiers and all this fighting people in the astral, and it's just garbage, in the case of Miles Johnson. And a lot of the stuff I just don't bother with because it's too ridiculous for words. But, yeah, well, I'd give it a go. Leave a link below to something you'd like me to take a look at from Andrew Johnson or Richard D. Hall.
Nice to see, because I consider those guys, they are probably the hardest to knock down. And
no, I don't. What, Richard D. Hall and Andrew Johnson? Yeah, I don't think so.
It would be nice to see Steve do more tackling them.
Yeah, all right, thanks, Ben. Well, just as I say, leave a link or two below to something you'd like me to tackle from those guys, and I'll give it a tackle.
Yes. As for Steve being a part of Team Droik, no, he's not. Steve's many things, but he's not Team Droik. I do think...
Yes, I'll stop it there because I know I know what he says next. And this is a family channel after all. Now, no, he's right about that. He's not right about much, is Mr. Jones. He's not right about much, but he is right about that. I've got no idea what he's talking about with regard this Droik stuff. All right, on with the next clip. Right, on to the next timestamp on my piece of paper that has Steve mumbling written next to it.
Right, there we go. We have a long thread here. It's on the Penta 3 years on, and what's more, I've already replied to the things Steve has said. And Steve Mumbling has put one more comment on here. Because Steve Mumbling has to have the last word, doesn't he?
Yes.
He always has to have the last word. My name's Steve Mumbling and I drive a Holden and it has tinted windows.
He's obviously been paying attention, hasn't he? Because I've never said that I drive a Holden. So he has gleaned that information from watching me driving the. I've done a few videos where I drive the car and just have a GoPro on the windscreen, and he's looked at it closely enough to see that I drive a Holden and it has tinted windows. That's really quite observant. And another rare occasion where Mr. Jones is absolutely correct. Good heavens! Called Guinness Book of Records. 60 minutes. Ben Emlyn-Jones is right about something. Tinted windows, of course, where I live is not a fashion. They're not a fashion accessory. I live in Australia, and we get months and months and months of relentless sunshine, blue skies. Don't see a cloud for months, literally. And tinted windows are a requirement where I live. That said, if I lived in England and I had that car, I'd probably still put the dark tint windows on because I just think it looks good. You see that colour scheme on some fairly exotic cars, Lamborghinis and that sort of stuff. You see those in that smacky in the face green. I don't know if I've ever shown the outside of it actually, but smacky in the face green for all the remote viewers that are going to come up with one of the cars I drive now. But smacky in the face green with a really dark tint does look good, I think. So although it's not a fashion accessory here, having dark tint windows, it's a necessity. If I lived in a country where it didn't really matter, I'd probably still have the dark tint window. Okay, so well done for spotting that, Ben.
And I have to have the last word every time. So I'm just going to fill up the dragon juice. I've drunk an entire litre of dragon juice with some more. Yes, he does. I am the great Steve Mumbling. Yes, I am. Right, here we go. Sit here. More dragon juice.
Is that all with the mumbling stuff?
Keep the whistle wet. Steve was going on about Kaz's polygraph test on the Penta video, and he was saying that she didn't do a polygraph in front of a camera. And I said it's not necessary to do a polygraph in front of a camera. If it was, then the operator would have suggested it. She's one of the top polygraph experts in the world, which is true.
Yeah, but what you've got to bear in mind is that presumably Kaz Clark did the polygraph to prove to people that her story was true. In her mind, it was true. Now, if you're going to go out of your way to do that, then you're going to, I think, say, right, okay, I'm going to sit in a chair, strap me up, film it, ask me whatever questions you like. What she's done is, apparently, I don't know if we've seen any evidence of this polygraph, have we? Have we actually seen the report? Do we know who did it? What their qualifications are, etc., etc., etc.? But she answered, I think, 3 or 4 questions relating to a statement. And I think it's very, very easy to disassociate yourself with a statement if you're doing a lie detector test. Yes, the statement is true. Paragraph, with regard, paragraph 3 in the statement, is it true? Yes. Okay. And you could be imagining in your head that the statement is something like, I baked an egg for breakfast, rather than I saw an alien spacecraft hovering above a field. I think put a line through it, it's worthless, that polygraph, if it exists at all, the polygraph report. Something else that Ben said I thought was quite amusing, and he said that I can't find it, or I didn't make a note of it, but the alien spacecraft isn't going to materialise in a field and then fly away, for 4 minutes and then fly away. And then Ben said, well, you're anthropomorphizing. You're thinking what might not be logical for a human might be perfectly logical for an alien, and that's an extremely poor argument when it comes to this sort of thing, because if aliens have flown here, they're a very intelligent species. They would have an extremely good understanding of mathematics, and they will understand and use logic. And flying light years across space to appear in the middle of a military exercise for a few minutes isn't going to make sense to an alien any more than it's going to make sense to anybody else. You're not going to fly light years and spend 4 minutes in hovering above a field. It's just absolute twaddle. It's nonsense. Okay, let's see what else we can find. And here we go again. Another timestamp with Steve mumbling written on it. So let's have a look at this one.
And Richard himself puts it very well. If you're in a car, if you're in Australia and you see a car driving past with tinted windows, maybe it's a Holden, a 2-seater Holden, you don't know whether it's a kangaroo driving it, or it might be Steve mumbling, ranting into his dashboard camera, or it might be some kangaroo who's just sort of jumped in there and is pressing the pedals.
Yeah, well, when you apply that sort of logic, Ben, I can understand why you might think that there might be something to some of these conspiracy stories. I've lived in Australia for a couple of decades or so, and I've never ever seen a kangaroo driving a Holden. Oh dear, could you imagine? You see a Holden driving down the road, you don't know whether it's Steve mumbling, ranting into his dashboard camera, or it's a kangaroo that's just got in there and is pressing the pedals. Well, I think that, you know, although I suppose it will be fair that, you know, my driving is not perfect, but I can usually stick in lanes and, you know, manoeuvre. I've been driving a very long time. I very much doubt you know, you could if a Holden was coming down the road and it's in a lane, it's going in a straight line, I'd be very surprised if a kangaroo was at the controls. Okay, all right. Well, I think that's going to do for this. I might just tack on a bit of Australiana, if you like. Ben seems to be interested in me driving around in Australia, so I did shoot a little. Well, I shot a few videos recently. I was out in the bush. I don't know how many might be suitable for tacking on here, but there might be one that I could tack on at the end here to just show you what a little bit of outback Australia looks like. So either continue watching and see if the clip is there, or if the clip isn't there, I'll maybe catch you another time. As always, thanks for watching. Let's just see if I can find a. I'll see if I can find a bush clip that's worth tacking on. Well, just a bit of an interlude. I thought I'd just do a quick video. I'm in a really old historic town called Giggle. It's an old gold mining town. There's still an active gold mine here, but a lot of the old buildings from the original gold miners, the old prospectors, are still here. And you can see in the background, there's the old Giggle hotel, the old pub. We'll just take a bit of a cruise through the town, and you can see the sort of things people used to live in. It's just a bit of an interlude away from the conspiracy stuff. It's probably driving everybody around the bend. Okay, so there's the old hotel. G-W-A-L-I-A, Giggle is the name of the town. If you want to have a look at it on Google Earth, or have a look at it on your map to see where I am, you can see over there a lot of the old buildings. People actually used to live in these. Some of these are still occupied, believe it or not. So there is still an active gold mine here, but it's over the back. I won't go over there and show you the gold mine. It's just a big hole in the ground. You can have a look at it on Google Earth. But these sort of places are the places people used to live in back in the days of the gold mining, with the pick and shovel and all these little corrugated buildings. It's a bit of a touristy town, you know. The tourists come and have a look at it. There you go. There's, I don't know if you can see that through the open window. Petroni's guest house. Probably a misprint in that somewhere, but people would have stayed there and no doubt spent the money they got when they sold their gold. There's another one over there. As you can see, it's carsy there, provided for the tourists. That isn't the public toilet, by the way. That's one of the old houses. And over here, that A pillar from the windscreen's probably in the way. I don't know if I can take that down. I'll take that down and give you a better view. Yeah, there you go. That was not a reflection of the car in the, the window. There you go. That's the State Savings Bank. Tobacco, cigarettes, frocks and dress material. Men's and boys wear. Shell oil. Goodness knows how old all this stuff is. Super Plume ethylene, ethyl, vacuum oil company, fruit and vegetables. Looks like over there someone's got a wired dipole. I don't know if you can see that if you're interested in antennas and radios. One mast of the dipole appears to be on public land. And over there, this one might actually be occupied. This one looks like oh no, probably not. I was going to say it looks like it's not in too bad a condition, that fence, but yeah. But people used to live in these little tiny shacks and go out and work in the gold mine, dig holes in the road and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, just live here and work here. It's out in the middle of nowhere. If you look at it on Google Earth, you can see what I mean. G-W-A-L-I-A, Gwalia. And the operating gold mine that's here is actually called the Sons of Gwalia. Sons of Gwalia Gold Mine. Okay, well I think that'll do. Going to leave Gwalia. That one might actually be a dwelling. Going to leave Gwalia and catch you next time.